going live. Already gone live on hello people on Facebook and on YouTube, and I'm now live on Instagram as well. Good morning. I'm very late this morning. That's because I am. Can't bother to explain why. Just done. Anyway, good morning. I know most of you will be doing this in catch up, but if you are around right now, there's quite a lot of people around. Come in and just pop in and say hi, because you can always catch us a little bit later as well. I'm going to talk about this, and we're going to do some amazing exercises for the pelvic floor, just because I know it's a subject that everyone is in some way concerned about, whether it's because you have incontinence issues, whether it's because you have tightness in your hip and you didn't even know that tightness in your hip could be related to your pelvic floor, if it's because you have a prolapse, if it's because you're going to have a baby or at some point in your life and you want to know how to work your pelvic floor. We should all be aware of the pelvic floor and what it does for us. So this is very much like a little snippet of my whole workshop seminar that I do on called The Power of the Pelvic Floor. So if you're at all interested, in any of that, just walking on my candles. So what I've got here is some blocks that I'm going to sit on, and you could use like a pile of books. I'm just going to move my camera down a little bit, I think. So you could use like a pile of books, or you could sit just kneeling. The problem with just kneeling like this is it opens the pelvic floor, so it puts the pelvic floor in stretch. So it's fine, but it makes it harder to then contract back up. It's quite a good challenge for your pelvic floor. So if you're in this position, it enables you to sit on your sit bones, which is where you want to sit, directly on sit bones. And the other great thing about it is that it puts you in a position, hi all these people popping in, that it basically puts your back in a really kind of relaxed position, so you don't have to think about trying to sit up. Your pelvis tends to just sit in a position that's right for you. And I'm not going to talk about neutral spine and pelvic tilt or anything like that. I just want you to move your pelvis and wiggle it a little bit, and feel your sit bones, because if you're doing that, then the chances are you're in the right position, and that's where I want you to be. So let's just do a little quick anatomy lesson of the pelvic floor. So the pelvic floor is a series of muscles. There's one major muscle which is really significant, I'm going to name, which is the levator, because it's the one that you want to really establish the feel of that muscle. Why is this muscle so important? Because it's the sling muscle. And if you think of the pelvic floor as having multiple layers, I'm going to call it 3. There's actually a lot more layers than that, but let's talk a little bit from 3 perspectives, because this is good to get your head around. If you think of the superficial layer, which is what you see, the external layer, that's one layer. You've then got a middle layer, which are the sphincter muscles that you use to control your bowel and your bladder. So that's that contraction that you use to stop from the back and the front. And I always say stop a fart, stop a wee. But that's not really it. What you're trying to get to is a deeper layer than that. And the reason this is so important, because it's that deeper muscle that really connects to everywhere. So it connects to your tailbone, and when you connect to that deeper layer, it will actually impact on your tailbone. It will actually move it in slightly. Okay, so if you are pregnant or postnatal, or you just have a high lordotic curve in your back, or you tend to get an achy back, just by connecting to that levator muscle, it's going to help pull your coccyx in naturally without you tilting the pelvis. It's just going to naturally bring the coccyx in a little bit. And when you think about pregnancy and birth, and this is, everyone should be thinking about this, don't care if you haven't had kids, but you're going to know someone who's going to have a baby at some point or other, and it's important to know, for everybody to know this stuff. So when you think about it, when you give birth, that tailbone has to move out the way. So if your pelvic floor is contracting and bringing it in, then it stands to reason you want the pelvic floor in birth to let go and relax. And that's why this is so important, because if you have any tightness in your hip, so the fascia that connects your pelvic floor to other parts of your body is also going to connect to hip muscles. Your pelvic floor is also very close. So if this hand is now my pelvic floor, you've got muscles here at the side, you've got the piriformis, you've got the obturator muscles here at the side. They're all really close and connected. So if these muscles are tight, it's going to pull an impact on your pelvic floor. So lots of muscles are in around that deep area, that third layer. So if you have issues in your hip, it could be that your pelvic floor is tight with those tight hip rotator muscles where you get that pain. You've probably heard of the piriformis muscle. There are other ones that are closer, but the piriformis is very close to the pelvic floor. So they're all interconnected. They're interconnected through fascial lines, and they all work together. So when they're tight, then they're going to impact. So it's really important to just be aware, and I love wiggling. Just moving, and I'm just moving on my sit bones here, and that's really important, is just to try and get areas to relax and release. Now, to actually contract the pelvic floor, we're going to think of that tailbone coming in, but I also want you to think of the pelvic floor areas like a diamond shape, yeah? And that diamond shape, yeah, attaches to that tailbone that we said at the back, the coccyx, the pubic bone at the front, and it also attaches to the sit bones that you should be sitting on right now. And to find your sit bones, if you pull your butt cheek out the way, you can feel the sit bone, which is called the ischial tuberosity. And that's your sit bone, okay? So the pelvic floor kind of attaches internally on the inside to that. So that's the area that we're talking about, and we're trying to contract through that area. Now, the muscle at the back is like a horseshoe shape that comes forward from that diamond shape. It comes forward and up, and it's like this scooping feeling sensation coming from the back to the front. And when you contract it, it's like stopping a fart is the big feel you want to get to, because when you scoop up from that stop a fart feeling and then you think of bringing that forward, it lifts up and into your belly. Yeah? But think of the layers. When you control that sphincter muscle, you're not going high enough. That's like squeezing it a little bit and going, ooh, it's there. Yeah, it's like an ooh contraction. Don't want that. Want a real massive, big, walloping contraction, right? So you're going to go lift up from the back and into the front. But then you want to let it relax. And because of all the connections through the body, there are nerve responses that are connected as well. When you contract the pelvic floor, your tummy muscle will come in at the same time. So you should be able to feel that. So if you feel other things going on, then that's fine. The other great reason for doing it in this position is everyone gets really worried about contracting their glutes. Well, if you know where the pelvic floor is, it doesn't matter if your glutes contract. In fact, I encourage people to contract their glutes and the pelvic floor at the same time. It's just knowing what's what. So if you've got that big scoop up feeling at the back into the front, then you know you're getting that big sensation. And if you want to emphasize from the front, it's a smaller sensation, that stop a wee feeling. And I always say, imagine you've got the big diamond, which is the whole of the pelvic floor area, and then there's a smaller diamond that sits at the top of the big diamond. If you think of this diamond shape, you've got the urethra at the front, you've got the vagina in the middle, obviously not in men, and then you've got the anus at the back, and you're just contracting through those areas. Okay, so think of a small diamond going around the urethra and around the vagina. Imagine pulling that small diamond up as you stop a wee and underneath your chin. Okay, so it's a smaller contraction, it's a much smaller feeling. Just try, so don't do the big back one for the moment, just do the front bit and try and contract that. Can you feel that? So we're kind of focusing on different areas. So you're contracting up. Yeah, can you feel that again? So just try and contract up from the front. So imagine pulling up. So stop a wee, but lift all the way up underneath your chin. So you're making that feeling bigger. So do it again. Pull up. Okay, so now join those two feelings together. So you do that stop a fart, stop a wee. So you're going to do that scoop up from the back into the front and up. Yep. So it's that stop a fart but scoop up, stop a wee but suction up from the front and lift up. And when you do that, you really feel this whole area coming in. Yeah. And if you're going to lift a really, really big weight and you know your pelvic floor is weak, you want to know that sensation. And I don't care what anyone says about you don't need to isolate your pelvic floor. You're never going to isolate your pelvic floor, that's very true. But you do need to be aware and conscious of it, particularly if you know your pelvic floor is weak. And if you are pregnant, if you are postnatal, if you are perimenopausal, if you are menopausal, if you are a guy who has very tight muscles, or you do a sport where, such as running, where you get a lot of stress on the pelvic floor, then you need to be conscious of your pelvic floor. It's really important because it also, when you contract the pelvic floor, it helps you contract. You feel your whole core coming in. Yeah, did you feel that? When you contract your pelvic floor, you feel all the core muscles coming in. So we know that the pelvic floor works with breath. Yeah, so there is a natural movement of the pelvic floor when you breathe, and we're just going to go back to the session I did on Monday and just breathe. So inhale and exhale, and inhale and exhale, and just with that natural breath, your tummy's coming in and out. Yeah, your pelvic floor is going out and in as well. Diaphragm's going out and in. So as the diaphragm goes out and in, the pelvic floor is going out and in as well. So they're all working together. So you inhale, everything extends. It's not relaxed, it's extending. Exhale, everything draws up and in. Yeah, inhale, everything extends. Exhale, everything draws in. So I call it like the two jellyfish. There's a jellyfish here and a jellyfish there, and they're just naturally, with your breath, doing that. Okay? When you purposely contract, you're going to pull it right up. So you're getting a different movement, but you can use your breath to help you with that. So let's do it with the breath. So inhale, exhale, lift up through. So stop a fart, scoop up, pull up through the front, and lift up and up and up and up and up and up as you exhale. Yeah? So you can, but you don't have to use that breath signal, because that natural movement of the pelvic floor is different to that big contraction. That also means you can relax your pelvic floor, whether you're inhaling or exhaling as well. It's all about knowing where your pelvic floor is and being able to feel it relax. So now we're just going to do that because, as I said, for birth, you want to relax your pelvic floor. But also, if you have tightness in your hip or any pain around your pelvis, it's really good to actually feel the pelvic floor relax and let go. If you have incontinence issues, yep, sometimes that's actually to do with the pelvic floor overacting. And I'm saying this very generally, and I'm not giving any individual person here any kind of advice, because if you have issues, there are so many different issues you can have. I'm going to say this now, you must go and see a pelvic health physiotherapist. You can get a referral to them, men and women can get a referral to a pelvic floor, or not a pelvic floor, a pelvic health physiotherapist. There are some that call themselves women's health physiotherapists, and if you want to go to one that ties themselves as a women's health physiotherapist, but you can go to see them via your GP, so you can go on the NHS and see a pelvic health physiotherapist specialist if you have any issues with your pelvic floor, because it's really important that you find out specifically what is wrong with you. But we can all relax the pelvic floor, we can all work the pelvic floor and lift it. So we're going to lift it, but we're going to focus on the relaxation. So you're going to use your breath, inhale, exhale, lift your pelvic floor up, get that scoop up from the back, draw in from the front, but then just let it go. And it's good to have a visual, yeah? So think of that tailbone coming in and that scoop up, lift up and up and up, and then think of it relaxing. And another really good way to think of it relaxing is think of those sit bones that you're sitting on. Think of them lifting in and then opening out as your pelvic floor relaxes. So think of the diamond. If you were to attach a piece of string to each corner of the diamond, you're bringing it in and up and then letting it drop down. And there's all sorts of different analogies you can use for this. and it's about finding one that works for you. I hope that's given you a bit of an insight. I could go on for hours about the pelvic floor. There's so much more that there is to know. Strengthening your pelvic floor is really, really good for all sorts of different reasons, primarily for the fact that when you strengthen it, you can also lengthen it. Yeah, because any muscle, if it's strengthened and you work it through its full range, you are also getting mobility in the muscle. And often that's the issue that we face. So I hope I've kind of established that. If you'd like to know more, please do DM me. I've got a workshop that you can attend. It's on my timetable, and I'm going to do an update of that very soon. So look out for posts on that. I'm going to do a brand new one of those. So if you want to join, you can join as a part of my Step-Tember campaign. So you join the campaign and you get the workshop is bundled into it, and you get access to all my classes as well. Or you can just attend the workshop. But if you'd like more information, please feel free to DM me, or if you're in YouTube or on Facebook, just comment below, or you can contact me via janewake.com. So yes, I hope that's been useful, and I will see you soon. Oh, tomorrow, by the way, we're going to put all of these things that we've done this week into a workout. So I'm just going to do a 10-minute workout using all the moves that we've kind of focused on this week.